Captain Lee Dong-wook stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the stars through the wide window. The Incheon's Pride had been traveling for 3 months now, searching for new worlds that humans could live on. Lee had done this job for 15 years and he loved every minute of it. Finding new places for humanity to grow made him feel proud. "Captain, we're getting close to the gas giant," said Lieutenant Kim Tae-ho from his seat at the control panel. "The sensors are picking up something strange." Dr. Park Ji-na looked up from her computer. She was the ship's expert on alien life, though they had never found any before. "What kind of strange?" she asked. "There are big objects floating around. The planet. They look like crystals, but they're huge. Some are as big as our cities back on Earth." Lee walked over to look at the screen. What he saw made him stop breathing for a moment. Giant crystal structures hung in space like floating mountains. They were beautiful and scary at the same time. The crystals glowed with soft blue light. "Are they natural?" Lee asked. Engineer Choi So-young shook her head. "No, sir. These crystals are too perfect. Someone built them." The bridge became very quiet. In all of human history, they had never found proof of other intelligent life. Now they were looking at huge crystal cities floating in space. "Take us closer, but be careful," Lee ordered. "And get ready to run if we need to." As the ship moved forward, the crystals grew larger. They were not just floating rocks. They had patterns cut into them, like buildings or machines. Some had lights moving through them, like blood through veins. Suddenly, all the screens on the ship lit up at once. A voice spoke in perfect human language, though it sounded like music and thunder mixed together. "Small creatures in the metal shell," the voice said. "You have entered sacred space. Identify yourselves." Lee's heart beat fast, but he kept his voice calm. "This is Captain Lee Dong-wook of the human exploration ship Incheon's Pride. We come in peace. We mean no harm." "Humans," the voice repeated the word like it was tasting it. "A young species. You have spread far from your birth world in a very short time." The largest crystal began to change shape. It stretched and twisted until it looked like a giant person made of blue light and crystal. The being was 20 times taller than a human. Its eyes were like small stars, and when it moved, space itself seemed to bend around it. "I am Veltar Prime," the being said. "We are the eternal divinities. We have ruled this galaxy for millions of your years. All life bows before us." Dr. Park whispered to Lee, "Sir, the readings are impossible. This being is controlling energy in ways that our science says can't happen." More crystal beings appeared around the ship. Each one was different, but all were huge and made of light and crystal. They moved through space without ships, as if the vacuum was just air to them. "You will stop your expansion immediately," Veltar Prime commanded. "No species may spread through the galaxy without our permission. You will return to your birth system and wait for our judgment." Lee felt anger rise in his chest. Humanity had worked so hard to reach the stars. They had built ships and colonies, faced dangers and hardships. No one had the right to tell them to stop. "We will not return," Lee said firmly. "Space belongs to everyone. We have the right to explore and find new homes." The crystal beings seemed surprised. They had probably never heard anyone say no to them before. "You refuse the will of the divinities?" Veltar Prime asked. Its voice now sounded dangerous. "We refuse," Lee said again. What happened next was like a nightmare. Veltar Prime raised one crystal hand, and the Incheon's Pride suddenly could not move. All the engines stopped working. The lights went out. Only the emergency power stayed on. "You see how weak you are," Veltar Prime said. "Your metal ships are toys to us. Your weapons are sticks and stones." More human ships arrived to help, but the same thing happened to them. The crystal being stopped them all with just a thought. The humans tried to fight back, but their missiles and energy weapons just disappeared when they got close to the beings. "We could destroy you now," Veltar Prime said. "But the divinities are merciful. We will give you time to think about your mistake. Return to your home system. Become servants like the others, and we will let you live." "What others?" Dr. Park asked. The space around them changed. Suddenly, they could see thousands of alien ships, all different shapes and sizes, but all staying perfectly still. Inside the ships were different kinds of aliens. Some looked like giant insects, others were like living plants or metal machines, but they all had the same empty look in their eyes. These were once proud species like you, Veltar Prime explained. They learned wisdom. They learned to worship the divinities. Now they are happy to serve us. Lee looked at the alien servants and felt sick. These beings had given up their freedom. They lived only to make the crystal gods happy. We will never become like them, Lee said. Then you will die, Veltar Prime replied. You have one of your years to change your minds. Use this time wisely. When we return, you will bow down or be destroyed. The crystal beings began to fade away. Before they disappeared completely, Veltar Prime spoke one last time. Tell your people that the divinities have spoken. There is no force in the universe that can stand against us. We are eternal. We are perfect. We are gods. The beings vanished, and suddenly the human ships could move again. Lee looked around at his crew. They all looked scared and confused. Dr. Park was quietly working at her computer. Sir, she whispered, I managed to scan them while they were talking. The data is strange. What do you mean? They're powerful, but they're not gods. There's technology behind what they do. Very advanced technology, but still technology. Lee nodded slowly. If the Veltar used technology, then maybe humans could find a way to fight back. It would not be easy, but humans had never chosen the easy path. Set course for home, he ordered. We need to warn Earth and all the colonies. Humanity is going to war. As the Inchan's pride jumped to faster-than-light speed, Lee made a promise to himself. The Veltar called themselves gods, but gods did not need to threaten people to make them obey. Gods did not need servants who were too scared to think for themselves. Real gods would want their children to be free and strong. The Veltar were not gods at all. They were just bullies with big weapons, and humanity had dealt with bullies before. Admiral Yoon Jaemin sat in the big meeting room on Earth's moon base. Around the table were the best military leaders and scientists from all human colonies. The news from Captain Lee had shocked everyone. For the first time in human history, they faced an enemy that seemed impossible to beat. Show them the recordings again, Admiral Yoon said to his assistant. The room darkened and a huge screen showed the crystal beings floating in space. Everyone had seen it many times, but it still made them feel small and afraid. The Veltar looked so powerful, so far beyond human understanding. We have 8 months left, Admiral Yoon said. 8 months to prepare for war against beings who call themselves gods. Dr. Kang Mireille, the best physicist on Earth, stood up. She had been studying the recordings for weeks without sleep. I've been looking at the energy patterns from their demonstration. The way they stopped our ships defies everything we know about physics. Can we fight them? Asked General Bae Hyun-soo, the leader of all ground forces. Not with our current weapons, Dr. Kang replied honestly. But there might be a way. The energy signatures suggest they're manipulating quantum fields on a massive scale if we can understand how. The door opened and Dr. Park Jina entered with more scientists from the exploration team. They looked tired but excited. Admiral, we found something important, Dr. Park said. We're not the first species to meet the Veltar. She activated a portable projector. Images of ancient ruins appeared on the wall. Strange writings and pictures covered broken stone walls. We found these ruins on 7 different planets, Dr. Park explained. All far from each other, all from different alien species, but they all tell the same story. The pictures showed the same crystal beings that had threatened humanity. In some images, the aliens were bowing down to them. In others, cities were burning. Each species met the Veltar, Dr. Park continued. Each species was given the same choice we were given: bow down or die. What happened to them? Admiral Yoon asked, though he feared he already knew the answer. Some chose to serve, others chose to fight. The ones who fought. Dr. Park showed images of dead worlds, empty cities, and broken ships floating in space. The ones who fought lost. The room became very quiet. Everyone was thinking the same thing. If powerful alien civilizations could not beat the Veltar, how could humans hope to win? Pilot Han Woo-jin, who had been silent until now, spoke up. "Sir, I've been talking to some of the alien servants we recorded. The insect-like ones, the Zephyrians." "How?" General Bay asked. "We broke their language codes. Simple mathematics and pictures. They're still intelligent, just controlled somehow." Han looked around the room. They remember being free. They remember their own culture and dreams. But they can't disobey the Veltar. Dr. Kang leaned forward. "That's important information. If they're being controlled, rather, than truly converted, there might be a way to break that control." Admiral Yoon nodded. "What else do we know about these servant species?" Dr. Park brought up more data. "We've identified at least 50 different alien species serving the Veltar. Some have been servants for thousands of years. Others are more recent, but they all have one thing in common, which is, they all had advanced technology when they were conquered. Faster than light travel, energy weapons, artificial intelligence. The Veltar don't just want primitive species to bow down. They specifically target advanced civilizations." "Why?" Han asked. Dr. Kang had been thinking about this. "Power. They're not just collecting servants. They're collecting knowledge and technology. Every species they conquer makes them stronger." Admiral Yoon stood up and walked to the window. Outside he could see Earth hanging in space like a blue marble. Millions of humans lived on that world, and billions more on colonies throughout human space. They were all counting on the people in this room to protect them. "How long do we have before they come back?" he asked. 7 months and 12 days, his assistant replied. "Then we use every single day. Dr. Kang, I want you to study their energy patterns. Find a weakness. Any weakness." "Yes, sir." "General Bay, start preparing all military forces. I know our weapons don't work against them, but maybe we can find a way to make them work." "Understood." "Dr. Park, keep studying those ruins, and see if you can make contact with more of the servant species. If they remember being free, maybe they remember how to fight." As the meeting ended, people began to leave, but Dr. Kang stayed behind with Admiral Yoon. "Sir," she said quietly, "there's something else. Something I didn't want to say in front of everyone." "What is it?" "The energy readings from the Veltar. They're not just using unknown technology. They're using energy sources that shouldn't exist. The amount of power they displayed would require the energy of an entire star." Admiral Yoon felt cold. "Are you saying they can destroy stars?" "I'm saying they have access to more power than any single planet could produce." "But," she paused, "power like that has to come from somewhere, and it has to be controlled by something. You think there's a central source?" "I think the Veltar have some kind of central power system. If we could find it, maybe we could disrupt it." Meanwhile, across human space, the preparations began. Every shipyard worked day and night to build more weapons. Scientists studied the recordings over and over, looking for any clue about Veltar weaknesses. On Mars, Han Woo-jin worked with other pilots to develop new fighting techniques. They could not match the Veltar's power, but maybe they could be faster or smarter. On the colony world of New Seoul, General Bay trained soldiers in new tactics. If the space battle failed, the war would come to the planets. They had to be ready. But the most important work was happening in secret. Dr. Kang and her team were building something new, something based on the energy patterns they had recorded from the Veltar demonstration. "If they can manipulate quantum fields," she explained to her assistants, "then maybe we can learn to do the same thing. Not on their scale, but enough to level the playing field." The work was dangerous. 3 scientists were injured when an experiment went wrong, but slowly they began to understand small pieces of how the Veltar technology worked. As the months passed, something else began to happen. Messages started arriving from the servant species, short, coded transmissions that the Veltar did not notice. "Help us," the messages said. "We remember freedom. We want to be free again." Admiral Yoon realized that humanity was not alone in this fight. Across the galaxy, there were beings who hated the Veltar just as much as humans did. They were just waiting for someone brave enough to lead the fight. With 6 months left before the Veltar returned, Admiral Yoon made a decision that would change everything. "We're not going to wait for them to come back," he announced to his staff. "We're going to take the fight to them." The first battle was a disaster. Admiral Yoon had sent 50 of humanity's best warships to attack a small Veltar outpost. The plan was simple: hit fast, learn what they could, and escape before the main Veltar forces arrived. It lasted exactly 4 minutes. Dr. Shin Yunji watched the battle recordings in her laboratory, her hands shaking as she made notes. She had been working for months to understand Veltar technology, but seeing it used in actual combat was terrifying. "Replay Section 7, she told the computer. The screen showed human missiles flying toward a single Veltar Guardian, one of the smaller crystal beings that protected their outposts. The Guardian did not even move. It just raised one hand and the missiles simply stopped existing. Not destroyed, not exploded. They just disappeared. Computer, analyze the energy pattern at moment of missile disappearance." The computer's voice was calm and mechanical. "Unknown energy signature. Quantum field fluctuation detected. Unable to determine cause." Dr. Shin rubbed her tired eyes. She had been working for 18 hours straight, trying to find any weakness in Veltar defenses. So far, she had found nothing useful. The door to her lab opened. Corporal Lim Seok-jin entered, still wearing his damaged combat armor. He had been on one of the ships that survived the battle. "Doctor, you wanted to see me?" he asked. "Yes. Sit. Down, please. Tell me exactly what you saw when the Veltar counterattacked." Lim sat down heavily. The battle had clearly shaken him. "It was like they were playing with us, Doctor. Our best weapons did nothing, but when they attacked back..." "What happened?" "The lead Veltar, the big one, it just looked at the UNS Busan. Not fired a weapon, just looked. The entire ship started breaking apart. Not from explosions or heat, it was like the ship forgot how to stay together." Dr. Shin made notes. "Did you notice anything else? Any patterns in how they used their power?" Lim thought for a moment. "There was something strange. When the smaller Guardians used their power, there was a delay, like they were waiting for permission or instructions from the big one. This was new information." Dr. Shin leaned forward. "How long of a delay?" "Maybe 2 or 3 seconds. It was small, but I noticed because I was trying to time our attacks." Dr. Shin felt excited for the first time in weeks. "Corporal, you may have given us our first real clue about how to fight them. Across the solar system, other humans were having their own discoveries. Pilot Han Woo-jin was testing a new type of fighter ship based on Dr. Kang's research. Instead of traditional engines, it used small quantum field manipulators. The first test flight had almost killed him. "I can't control it," Han reported over the radio as his ship spun wildly through space. "The quantum fields are too unstable." Dr. Kang's voice came back from the control room. "Try reducing power to 30%. Don't fight the field fluctuations. Work with them." Han adjusted the controls. Suddenly, the ship stopped spinning and began to move smoothly. But it was moving in ways that should have been impossible. It turned sharp corners without slowing down. It accelerated faster than any human ship ever had. "This is incredible," Han said, his voice full of wonder. "It's like the laws of physics are just suggestions now." "How do you feel?" Dr. Kang asked. She was worried about the effects of quantum manipulation on human bodies. "Strange, but good. It's like I can feel the quantum fields around me." This was the breakthrough they needed. Over the next month, Han and other volunteer pilots learned to fly the new quantum fighters. They were still much weaker than Veltar technology, but they were faster and more agile than anything humans had built before. Meanwhile, General Bay was preparing for the worst. If the space battle failed, the Veltar would come to human worlds. His soldiers needed to be ready. "They can manipulate matter and energy," he explained to his officers. "Traditional cover won't help. Traditional tactics won't work. We need to think differently." General Bay had studied the ancient alien ruins that Dr. Park had found. Some of the defeated species had fought ground battles against Veltar servants. The images showed that Veltar power had limits. They were not truly all-powerful. Look at this, he showed his officers a carved stone picture. This shows Veltar beings fighting in a city. See how they have to concentrate to use their power? And see how they avoid getting too close to large groups of enemies? Captain Jung Da-un, his best tactical officer, studied the image. Sir, are you saying they can be overwhelmed? I'm saying they have limits. They're powerful, but they're not infinite. If we can force them to use their power constantly, maybe we can wear them down. The preparations continued. Human colonies built underground shelters and trained civilian populations in survival tactics. Scientists worked day and night on new weapons. Military forces practiced new fighting techniques. But the most important development was happening in secret. Dr. Shin had been working with the recordings from the first battle. She had discovered something that changed everything. The Veltar were not actually as powerful as they appeared. They're using technology, she announced to a secret meeting of top leaders. Advanced technology, but still technology. And I think I know how it works. She showed them her analysis. The Veltar don't generate power themselves. They're connected to some kind of external power source. When the smaller ones waited for permission, they were actually waiting for power to be sent to them. Admiral Yoon leaned forward. You're saying they're not gods at all? I'm saying they're an ancient species that found a way to tap into quantum energy on a massive scale. But they still need their power source. Disrupt that source, and they become as mortal as anyone else. Where is this power source? Dr. Shin brought up a star map. Based on the energy patterns and transmission delays, I think it's here. She pointed to a region of space far from any human colony. There's something in this system that's generating enough power to supply the entire Veltar Empire. This information changed everything. Instead of trying to match Veltar power, humans could try to cut off their power source. But first, they needed to survive long enough to find it. The deadline was approaching fast. In 2 months, the Veltar would return to demand humanity's surrender. This time, humans would be ready to give them an answer. Han Wu-jin flew his quantum fighter in formation with 50 others. They were humanity's first real hope of matching Veltar technology. General Bei watched his soldiers practice with new quantum-enhanced weapons. They were still experimental, but they gave humans a fighting chance. Dr. Shin continued her research, racing to unlock more secrets of Veltar technology before time ran out. And Admiral Yoon stood on the bridge of the new flagship UNS Seoul, the first human ship equipped with quantum shields and weapons. It was not as powerful as Veltar technology, but it was built with something the Veltar had forgotten about: human determination. All ships, Admiral Yoon announced over the fleet communication system. The Veltar think we will bow down like all the others. They think fear will make us surrender our freedom. They are about to learn why humanity has never accepted defeat. In the distance, sensors detected the familiar energy signatures of approaching Veltar ships. The crystal gods were returning for humanity's answer. This time, humanity was ready to give them one they would never forget. Dr. Nam-Gite brushed dust off the ancient stone tablet, his hands trembling with excitement. Deep in the ruins of a dead world, he had found something that would change the war forever. Ambassador, oh, you need to see this, he called over his radio. Ambassador Oh Soo-bin climbed down into the underground chamber where Dr. Nam was working. Around them, alien writing covered the walls in languages older than human civilization. What did you find? She asked. Dr. Nam pointed to a series of carved images. This isn't just another record of Veltar conquest. This is the story of where they came from. The images showed a species that looked almost like humans, but taller and with longer limbs. They lived on a beautiful world with great cities and advanced technology. These people called themselves the Vel, Dr. Nam explained. They were scientists and explorers much like us, but they found something in deep space that changed everything. The next images showed the Vel discovering massive structures around a dying star. The structures were clearly not natural, but the Vel did not build them either. Who built those structures? Ambassador O asked. The original creators are gone now. But the Vel found their quantum manipulation technology and decided to use it. Dr. Nam pointed to more images. At first, they used it to help their people. They solved energy problems, cured diseases, even extended their lives. The story continued in stone carvings. The Vel became more and more dependent on the quantum technology. They started changing themselves, replacing parts of their bodies with crystal and energy. Then came the worst part. Dr. Nam said quietly. The images showed the original creators of the quantum technology, returning to reclaim their property. But the Vel had become so dependent on the power that they could not give it up. War broke out. The Vel destroyed their own creators, Dr. Nam said. They murdered the beings who had made their power possible, and then they decided they were gods. Ambassador O felt sick. How long ago did this happen? According to the stellar positions shown in these carvings, about 2 million years ago. Meanwhile, in space above the planet, Captain Jung Da-yun commanded the first human ship equipped with full quantum technology. The UNS Incheon was humanity's most advanced warship, but it was about to face its greatest test. Captain, we have Feltar signatures approaching, reported her tactical officer. How many? 12 Guardian-class vessels and 1 Prime-class command ship. Captain Jung had fought the Veltar 3 times now. Each battle had taught her something new about their weaknesses. They were powerful, but they were also predictable. They relied too much on their technology and not enough on tactics. Signal the fleet, she ordered. Execute Plan Delta. 20 human ships spread out in a complex pattern. Instead of charging directly at the Veltar like in the old days, they used hit-and-run tactics. The quantum fighters, led by Han Wu-jin, darted around the enemy like angry bees. Target the smaller Guardians first, Captain Jung commanded. Force them to call for power from the Prime. The battle was unlike anything seen before. Human weapons, enhanced with quantum technology, actually damaged Veltar ships. For the first time in the war, the crystal beings looked surprised. But the humans had learned more than just new technology. They had learned to work together in ways the Veltar had never seen. Han, take your squadron around their left flank, Captain Jung ordered. Make them think we're trying to escape. Pilot Han Wu-jin smiled grimly. Copy that, Captain. Let's give these false gods something to think about. The Veltar fell for the trick. They concentrated their power on stopping the escaping fighters, leaving their main force exposed. Human warships struck from multiple directions at once. The first Veltar Guardian ship ever destroyed by human weapons exploded in a burst of crystal fragments and quantum energy. Across the galaxy, other servant species were watching. The news spread through secret communication networks that the Veltar had tried to shut down, but could never completely stop. The Zephyrians, the insect-like aliens who had served the Veltar for thousands of years, began to remember what freedom felt like. The Corvani, who looked like living trees, started to resist their programming. On dozens of worlds, Veltar servants began to malfunction. Not all at once and not completely, but enough to cause problems. Ambassador O received urgent messages from resistance groups throughout Veltar space. The servant species are starting to rebel, she reported to Admiral Yoon. It's small acts of defiance so far, but it's spreading. How is that possible? Admiral Yoon asked. Hope, Ambassador O replied simply. For 2 million years, no one has successfully fought the Veltar. Now we've destroyed one of their ships. The other species see that the Veltar can be beaten. Dr. Nam's discoveries had revealed the location of the Veltar power source. It was exactly where Dr. Shin had predicted, a massive structure built around an artificial black hole. The Veltar had built their entire civilization around stolen technology and the energy of a collapsed star. We call it the God Engine, Dr. Nam explained to the War Council. It's where the Veltar transformed themselves from mortals into the crystal beings we know today. It's also the source of all their power. Can we destroy it? General Bay asked. Dr. Shin studied the ancient diagrams. Maybe, but it would be suicide. The defenses around that system are impossible to break through. Unless, Dr. Nam added quietly, we had help from the inside. He showed them more carvings. The original Vel didn't all agree to become crystal gods. Some of them refused the transformation. According to this, they were imprisoned in the God Engine structure, forced to maintain the machinery that powers their former people. "You're saying there are still original Vel alive in there?" Admiral Yoon asked. "Prisoners for 2 million years, keeping the machine running for their captors. If we could contact them." The plan was dangerous beyond belief. A small force would have to penetrate the most heavily defended system in the galaxy, contact prisoners who might not even remember how to be free, and somehow convince them to help destroy their own creation. But it was humanity's only chance to end the war. Captain Young volunteered to lead the mission. "My ship has the best quantum systems. We have the best chance of getting through their defenses." Pilot Han Woo-jin volunteered to fly escort. "Someone needs to watch your back, Captain." Dr. Shin insisted on joining the mission personally. "If we're going to sabotage quantum technology, you'll need someone who understands it." As preparations began, the war continued to spread. More Veltar Guardian ships were destroyed. More servant species began to rebel. The crystal gods, who had ruled the galaxy for 2 million years, were starting to look worried. Veltar Prime himself appeared on communication channels, his voice carrying new emotions that had never been heard before. Doubt and fear. "Humans," he said, "you do not understand what you are doing. The quantum forces we control are beyond your comprehension. If you continue this path, you will destroy not just yourselves, but entire star systems." Admiral Yoon's response was broadcast to every human colony and every resistance cell in the galaxy. "We understand perfectly," he said. "You are not gods. You are not divinities. You are thieves and murderers who stole power that was never meant to be yours. And now it's time to give it back." The final phase of the war was about to begin. Deep in Veltar space, the God Engine waited, guarded by forces beyond imagination. But heading toward it was a small human fleet carrying something the Veltar had never faced before. The descendants of the people they had murdered, coming home to reclaim what had been stolen, and the truth about what the Veltar really were. Fleet Admiral Song Hyewan stood on the bridge of the UNS Earth's Hope, watching the God Engine grow larger on the main screen. After 8 months of war, this was humanity's final gamble. The structure was beyond imagination. It surrounded an artificial black hole like a metal shell, thousands of kilometers across. Energy poured from it in streams of light that fed Veltar power across the entire galaxy. "Admiral, we're detecting massive defensive grids," reported her tactical officer. "Hundreds of Veltar ships plus automated defense systems we've never seen before." Dr. Ryu Dong-hyun looked up from his computer. He had spent months designing what he called the God Killer weapon, a quantum virus that could infiltrate Veltar technology. "The good news is that all their systems are connected," he said. "If we can get the virus into their main network, it will spread everywhere." "And the bad news?" Admiral Song asked. "We have to get close enough to upload it directly into the God Engine's core. That means flying through their entire defensive fleet." Captain Jung Da-eun's ship, the UNS Incheon, led the assault force. Behind her flew 50 of humanity's best ships, plus volunteer vessels from 12 different alien species who had broken free from Veltar control. "All ships, this is Captain Jung," she announced over the communication system. "We all know what's at stake here. Either we end Veltar rule today or the galaxy remains in chains forever." The Zephyrian ship commander, one of the insect-like aliens who had served the Veltar for thousands of years, responded first. "We have waited so long for this day. Today, we fight for freedom." The battle began unlike any other in the war. The Veltar threw everything they had at the attacking fleet, space filled with crystal ships and energy weapons that could destroy planets. But something was different this time. The Veltar were afraid. Veltar Prime himself appeared in space, his crystal body now flickering with unstable energy. "Humans!" he screamed, his voice distorted by anger and fear. "You don't know what you're doing. The power we control keeps the galaxy stable," Admiral Song replied over open channels so every ship could hear. "The only thing you've kept stable is your own tyranny." The battle raged for hours. Human ships fell, but they kept fighting. Alien allies died, but more took their place. Slowly, desperately, They fought their way closer to the God engine. Dr. Ryu worked frantically to prepare his virus as weapons fire shook the ship around him. "Almost ready," he reported, "but I need a direct connection to their core systems." "How? Direct?" Captain Jung asked. "Someone needs to physically plug this device into their central computer." Everyone on the bridge looked at each other. Getting inside the God engine meant certain death. "I'll do it," said Corporal Lim Seok-jin, who had volunteered for the mission despite being a ground soldier. "I've been fighting these crystal bastards since the war started. Time to finish it." Meanwhile, deep inside the God engine, something unexpected was happening. The original Vel prisoners, who had maintained the machinery for 2 million years, were starting to remember who they used to be. Dr. Nam had been right. Not all the original Vel had agreed to become crystal gods. Thousands had been enslaved to keep the God engine running. They had been forced to watch as their transformed people conquered and enslaved the galaxy. One of them, an ancient being whose name had been forgotten even by himself, felt something he hadn't experienced in 2 million years. Hope. The quantum fields around the God engine were fluctuating as the battle raged outside. For the first time in eons, the prison systems were weakening. "Brothers," he whispered to his fellow prisoners, "the young species are actually fighting back. They're trying to destroy what we built." "Should we help them?" asked another prisoner, her voice barely a whisper after so long without hope. "We should," the first prisoner replied. "This machine has caused enough suffering. It's time to let it die." Outside, the human fleet was taking terrible losses. Half their ships were gone, and the God engine's defenses seemed infinite. Then, suddenly, the defensive systems began to malfunction. "What's happening?" Admiral Song asked. Dr. Ryu checked his instruments in amazement. "Someone is sabotaging the God engine from the inside." The prisoners Dr. Nam found. "They're helping us." This was the chance they needed. Captain Young's ship broke through the final defensive line and docked with the God engine's surface. Corporal Lim, carrying Dr. Ryu's virus device, ran through corridors filled with crystal formations and quantum energy. The God engine's interior was like a living nightmare. Machines made of crystal and metal stretched in all directions, pulsing, with the power of the artificial black hole at the center. And everywhere Lim could see them, the original Vel, barely alive after 2 million years of slavery. "Help me," he called to the nearest prisoner. The ancient being looked at him with eyes that had seen the rise and fall of civilizations. "You're human," he said in wonder. "The young species that refuses to bow down." "That's right. Can you show me where to install this device?" "Follow me, young warrior. It's time to end this." At the God engine's core, Veltar Prime made his final stand. He had grown to enormous size, his crystal body crackling with unstable power. "I am eternal," he screamed. "I am divine. I cannot be defeated by mortals." But even as he spoke, his power was failing. The quantum virus was spreading through the Veltar network, not destroying their technology but freeing it from their control. "You were never divine," Corporal Lim said as he activated the virus device. "You were just bullies with stolen power." The effect was immediate and devastating. Across the galaxy, Veltar ships lost power. Crystal beings who had called themselves gods for 2 million years suddenly became mortal again. The energy that had kept them alive and powerful was now available to everyone. Veltar Prime's crystal body began to crack and crumble. Inside the failing shell, the original person he had been was revealed. Small, frightened, and very, very old. "Please," he whispered. "We just wanted to be safe. We just wanted to never die." Admiral Song, watching through the communication link, felt something she hadn't expected. Pity. "You had the chance to use that power to help everyone," she said. "Instead, you used it to control everyone. That was your choice." The God engine began to shut down in controlled sequence. The original Vel prisoners, finally free after 2 million years, worked together to prevent an explosion that could destroy half the galaxy. "The power will still exist," the ancient Vel prisoner explained to Dr. Ryu. "But now it belongs to all species, not just us. Use it wisely." Across the galaxy, the effects were immediate. Servant species broke free from their mental chains. Worlds that had been forbidden were suddenly open for exploration. Technologies that had been restricted were now available to everyone. But the most important change was simpler than that. Fear ended. For 2 million years, every intelligent species in the galaxy had lived in fear of beings who claimed to be gods. Children had grown up knowing that their people could never be truly free. Scientists had limited their research because some knowledge was forbidden to mortals. Now, for the first time in ages beyond memory, the galaxy was free. The surviving Veltar, now revealed as the small, ancient beings they truly were, faced a choice. Some were tried for their crimes and imprisoned. Others, showing genuine remorse, were allowed to help rebuild the civilizations they had destroyed. Veltar Prime, now just an old and broken person named Velkas, spent his remaining years working in human hospitals, trying to heal some of the suffering his people had caused. 1 year later, Captain Lee Dong-wook, now promoted to admiral, stood on the observation deck of a space station in the former Veltar capital system. Below him, ships from hundreds of different species worked together to build something new. Dr. Park Ji-na joined him at the window. "What do you think they'll call this new government?" she asked. "I don't know," Lee replied. "But whatever they call it, it won't be ruled by false gods." Through the window, they could see children playing in the station's parks. Human children, Zephyrian younglings, Corvini saplings, and dozens of other species, all learning and growing together. "You know what the best part is?" Dr. Park said. "What's that?" "For the first time in 2 million years, these children don't have to bow down to anyone." Admiral Lee nodded. The Veltar had called themselves divinities, eternal and perfect beings, who deserved worship and obedience. They had been wrong about everything except one thing. They were eternal, but only in the memory of those they had enslaved. History would remember them not as gods, but as a warning about what happens when power becomes more important than compassion, and they would be remembered by free people in a free galaxy, where the only gods worth worshipping were the ones who taught their children to stand tall and think for themselves. The age of false divinities was over. The age of freedom had begun.